Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond Normal Days. It's your host, Guillermo. For this month's guest, I got to sit down with Jeremy Sena at his home studio in Redondo Beach, California. Jeremy is a Los Angeles DJ and event organizer. He founded the company called LA Structures, which has hosted several LA debuts from DJ and producers. I met Jeremy a while back at what used to be a weekly event in Los Angeles called Misfit, which is hosted by Giselle, also known as Mesme. Throughout the interview, Jeremy and I talk about what got him into raving, DJing his first party, and his progression to throwing his own parties in LA. Jeremy gives us an insight into the rave scene in Los Angeles in the 90s and shares some cool stories to give us a better visualization of what was happening 20 plus years ago in Southern California. For example, a notorious rave riot in downtown LA, and his first Interface party, which is the event series by the Droid Behavior crew. This was a cool talk and hope everybody enjoys the stories Jeremy shared with us. We recorded the interview around the time when he was throwing his Structures 5.0 party with Alfredo Mazzilli this past September. Jeremy is now on Structures 5.5, which just happened recently on December 7th, 2018, which hosted the LA debut of Kaiser from Italy. The mix for this episode was curated by Jeremy himself, so make sure to follow LA Structures on Facebook, Instagram, and Resident Advisor to stay updated for future events. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and make sure to follow Beyond Normal as well on social media platforms to see what we have in store for the next year. All right. Welcome to Beyond Normal Days. This is episode 4 with Jeremy Sena.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Jeremy. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for the hospitality. This is awesome.
Appreciate
Pleasure
you
meeting
having me on.
Burger, your little pup. So,
Appreciate it.
Let's get it started then. So I kind of wanted, right off the back, where were you born?
I was born here in Redondo Beach, where we are now. Nice weather here.
Yeah,
So my parents lived here, when I was young.
So, did you ever move out of California or the United States?
No. I've lived in South Bay area all my life, basically.
What was your upbringing? Do you have any fond childhood experiences or memories?
Let's see. I went to school here in Torrance and Redondo when I was a kid, which was normal. Used to play at the beach a lot. Boogie boarding was big in the 80s, stuff like that.
Did any of your family members listen to electronic music?
Not much, actually. They're familiar with it through my introductions to various, artists and things like that. But they're not super into it.
That's I was basically asking because of basically doing this interview because I want to know about what made you get into this culture and this scene. So that's why I asked that question.
Sure. So, I was a little rave kid in the 90s. When I was in high school, me and my friends would, try and go to rave parties and stuff like that. It was hard to find them. This was before the internet. So you would have to go to a party to get flyers for the other parties, and kind of get into it that way. But it was hard to find the shows because, it's a heavily Latin community at the time, and it was all based out more on the east side of LA. And so it was hard for me to get over there, young kid with no car and all that. But made some friends that were into it, and eventually just started going to rave shows and stuff. I was already into electronic music before that. It was a thing where I was trying to find raves, and it was hard to find them. I was just a kid.
Was techno right away the genre that you got into for electronic music?
No, it wasn't really like that back then. There was subgenres, but it was jungle / drum and bass stuff, hardcore, trance, and house, basically. And it was broken into way less subgenres than it is now. But I was introduced to it through bands like Orbital and what they call electronica stuff these days. But back then it was all new. It was cool, and I was into it and wanted to go see these guys live and all this kind of stuff. So.
And you mentioned that this was pre-internet, so what was your first party, or how did you basically come to find out? Was it just
let's see. So I figured out that the Orb was playing after the K-Rock Weenie Roast at this K-Rock sponsored Jason Bentley organized thing. Okay. Right?
That's tight.
And so I went there and I found a bunch of rave flyers there. And just started going to raves after that.
Do you remember what year, or years? It's not
this was 94 or something.
And that's crazy because I'm born 92, so that's literally, I was 2 years old when you're doing that.
So yeah, rave stories is what you want, right?
Basically, too, yeah. So let me see. I kind of I'm not a structure, but okay. So yeah, let's start your upbringing in raving because I'm probably gonna get ahead of to your current stuff with his LA structures, but let's talk about before LA structures.
Mm-hmm.
You were first attending parties, or
yeah, for many years I've attended all kinds of electronic music shows, whether that be raves or bigger acts and stuff like that, because I have varied taste. But I've been DJing for a long time also. So
did you start DJing right away, or was just attending parties then DJing, or?
I was attending parties at first, and then I kind of became more familiar with the music and the artists and stuff after seeing a bunch of it. So actually stumbled upon DJing in a way. I was just at some dude's house and they were playing on turntables, and they're like, "Here, let's show you how to do it, Jeremy." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
And
they showed me how to do it.
This is still the 90s.
This must have been 96, I think.
All turntables, no CDJs.
They didn't exist back then. CDJs.
Oh damn! And how was the scene back then, like in the 90s, because you've been able to see the evolution of it, to current days right now. So how would you basically describe the pre, or like in the 90s, since you kind of started, because, I know for sure Raving's pre-90s as well, too.
Yeah, it existed before I started doing it, of course, and there's a long history in LA, actually, of underground shows by guys like, Pascal from Insomniac was doing underground shows back then and stuff. But there were a bunch of them. It was lively. It was a vibrant scene,
Would you are there any like names that stand out? Like, for example, I know was Insomniac the name for Insomniac for Pascal?
No, there was just one crew of a bunch of crews in LA that were doing shows and stuff, and there were, it was a lot different. There was like a theme to the parties and stuff, like Willy Wonka or whatever, right?
Yes, yeah.
And it was a lot more like open and inclusive, almost like kind of what people I think kind of strive for with like Burning Man and stuff. It was more like that. It was very open and inclusive. There's like a hippie element. There's like a more Latino like house element.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different groups together dancing, having fun.
And when you say like the Latino community, when did you find out about droid behavior? Because I remember one day talking to Vidal, he was telling me about his name change or his duo to Raiz, and going back to their Latin roots, and because they were part of, if I'm not mistaken, I'm butchering the information, but it was they were under a label that was Latin based or maybe Latin owned. So that kind of just maybe sparked the question, or just like a curiosity of it was heavily like Latin house, just.
There was a big scene. There was a whole crew of like Hauser crews and stuff. That was a big thing back then.
Hauser crews.
Yeah, that baggy pants and striped shirts, and that was just like the look. It was
You never indulged in any of that fashion style. You never indulged in that fashion style.
I wore big old baggy jeans and stuff. And
Jinko.
Yeah, totally. I had a bunch of
Jinko pants. Sick.
I went to high school out here in Harbor City, and. Yeah, everybody was just wearing Janko pants and stuff.
Yeah. So you say for the, how you said it was heavily influenced by the Latin community, would that be associated with like ditch parties as well that you would ever attend?
Not so much in my case, but I know that existed. That was more on like the east side, but here that I was in like a accelerated high school, so like magnet school or whatever, right? So. No, we weren't really ditching.
Okay.
We were like a bunch of good kids.
That's funny how you said that, because I think I've seen it was a video that was on the internet, I think, describing ditch parties in Fontana.
And Fontana, yeah.
Yeah, you see they're playing like house music, hard house, and it's I don't want to like stereotype it, but a little bit of like maybe like like if you want to very stereotypical, now you don't want to throw it out, but like cholo type of.
I get what you're saying.
As well too, but it was that's funny you said the ditch parties, because I just thought about that video.
Yeah, I've seen those videos. I wasn't cool enough to be invited to that stuff. I couldn't get out there anyway.
Same. I I always describe myself not like a late bloomer, but kind of, because I caught the 2009, 2010, like wave of electronic music, because I didn't have no like family members or anything to really introduce me, and it was actually there was and now that there was like a family member who was going to like EDC and everything, but he wasn't really like talking to me specifically about it. And then now, like after years of going to that, I talked to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was going to, back in the day." I'm like, "Okay, so it was still maybe close in my family, but not directly to somebody introduced me to, this is happening over here, this is that, these parties are dope, check them out." But but then also like talking to like homies like Elijah that have been doing it for years as well too. And specifically like you've been doing it basically our whole life.
Yeah, pretty much. I was really unhappy with the general state of music at the time, and I was looking for something new, and the electronic music stuff really caught my ear at the time. So it's very futuristic and like forward thinking.
Yeah, that's
way
a
more
proper
so
way
than
to
now.
describe it. Yeah.
Right. Now it's mainstream. Yeah. Back then it was very underground.
Do you remember when like you recognize that you were involved in like in the techno community, or you wanted to be part of like for sure this like specific genre? Because of course you're well rounded in music. Even currently right now we were in you were playing some music, and it was in techno music, or so of course everybody, a good musician or a good artist, is going to be listening to just more than one genre. So how did you get into specifically techno to be like, okay, this is something that I can see myself
Well, I consider that I kind of matured into it. I was into hardcore and gabber and stuff before that, and I was DJing that stuff, way back early. And I don't know. I just over time my taste kind of matured, and I slowly I was already kind of playing techno and acid stuff, like hard acid stuff, hard trance stuff, and hardcore as well. At the time, way back, like started playing at shows probably around like 99, 2000, something like that.
At this time, because when you're mentioning those genres, sometimes it reminds me of Dr. Freecloud's Ron Decor.
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever involved with any of maybe mutual gatherings or productions or anything like that?
Well, I went to a bunch of their shows back then. They would throw shows all the time. And Ron Decor was a big influence. He would play old school techno or like hardcore stuff. And it was really high energy and intense, and the crowd would get super into it and start jumping around, screaming and stuff. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah,
but that's the fun. That's the more fun, younger stuff that I started with.
When did you decide to start throwing events, or?
That was more recent, actually. I had a friend. He was doing hard style and hardcore shows, right, at the time, and he was doing like a national tour and all this stuff. So I started working with him because it was fun. It was something to do, and we got along well. And then I just kind of spun off my own brand of show, and I wanted to do techno shows, so I just did it.
How would you describe maybe the 2000s of the electronic music scene in LA?
2000s?
Yeah, but this is like, I want to know before 2010, because I caught that wave of 09, 2010.
Okay.
But
yeah, there's so I was DJing,
or like
shows.
Maybe like when it was becoming like when the whole EDM term came up as
yeah, well,
you remember before, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
you
remember before the term EDM was a thing?
Yeah.
Because I hear stories as well too that before the term EDM became a thing and after,
yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of a byproduct. The EDM thing is like a byproduct, I would say, of like the big mainstream festivals. But anyways, back to your original question. You were asking about like before 2000 or before 2010?
Yeah, before the little, I guess, mainstream wave.
So yeah, I was DJing like hardcore and stuff at shows at the time. I had a friend who was very successful at it, and he was helping, book me all the time, basically. And it was fun. It was great. We were doing a bunch of different shows and playing all over the place, big crowds and everything.
And this is in California?
Yeah, this is in LA mainly. Okay. And there was a kind of a sudden drop off in attendance in rave crowds. It like became kind of passe or whatever happened. But basically the scene just fell apart like in LA at that time, and it was dead. There was a lot of shows, like all the big festivals stopped for a while,
Was Insomniac thriving at this point?
I'm not sure. I think they were starting to buy up clubs or something. I don't know all the details.
Okay. And sorry, I got a little brain fart. But so 2000, so it dropped off. So you're saying that pre 2010 it was like a little sudden drop off. And when did it start coming up? Becoming thriving again, or you can kind of see like, okay, there's a possibility of there becoming I guess a market or culture. Basically again the scene again.
Well, it all kind of changed. That's when the rise of what you were describing as EDM, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of music and the kind of mainstream dubstep sounds and things like that, the festivals started to rise. The big festivals. Yeah. You see a huge bunch of them. They're still around, of course.
Of course, yeah.
And basically that was the kind of resurgence of it. But there was a small but growing techno scene in LA at the time, and you kind of touched on it earlier, like the early Joy Behavior shows and stuff like that, which nobody was really booking, European techno, like what we consider techno now, right?
And that's probably like probably after a question like after we I guess talk about your event organization company, LA Structures.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, the techno acts, what would be some of the techno names that you would see or throw around on flyers or lineups and stuff?
Well, I wasn't super well versed in it at the time, and everything good?
Oh no, yeah,
I wasn't super well versed in it at the time, and so I was basically just relying on the promoters to bring good stuff. So I learned about a bunch of artists that way actually. Like you said, the Joy Behavior guys, they brought out a bunch of good acts over the years. But I remember the first interface I went to was like interface 4 or 5 or something. It was at a sushi bar.
What?
A tiny little thing.
Okay.
It was cool, but they had Tim Xavier from Texas, I think he's.
Oh, what?
It was cool.
And do you have any like fond memories of like favorite locations that parties were thrown at?
Yeah,
in, like, in the Los Angeles area.
The Joy Behavior 10-year anniversary, they had this crazy sound stage with like 2 walls, like an L shape of those like photo background. It was a beautiful location, and they put these giant projectors all over the place and projected all the way around this whole L shape in this giant warehouse, and they had Marcel Detman.
Oh shit!
It was pretty cool.
That
was a great party.
Do you remember what year Interface 10 was?
I don't know exactly, but.
Do you remember who was playing? Oh no, you did say for your first Interface party, because we were asking some of these like questions because I remember when Resident Advisor did the Underground Scenes Los Angeles, we were talking about how for a party I think you would have to go through this. What was it like little?
Through the fence, and then it was through like a washway.
Yeah, so how Elijah was saying, like going through a fence, going through some washway to get to the actual location. So do you remember any of the type of?
Oh yeah.
There's
a crazy one. It was at like this factory out in the boonies, in like Rancho Cucamonga or something.
Oh shit!
Wow.
That's Illinois Party.
They had filmed Terminator 2 there. And then they bust you in on the back of a U-Haul. So you went to this like shopping center and parked there, and then this dude would show up and everyone would jump in the back of the U-Haul. He'd take you down this dirt road to this factory.
What?
It was pretty cool.
When did that start like stopping or like kind of becoming as a slowdown, like not doing so much of those?
Yeah, because there was a ban the rave act. At one point there was a movement
and
stopping and shutting down locations.
Yeah, and every few years Fox 11 does this anti-rave story. Yeah. They just do it every like 4 or 5 years or something. It's like a clockwork.
Yeah, that's interesting. How has your family been receptive of your raving years as well too?
They're fine with it as long as I was doing fine in school and stuff like that.
Makes sense. I think that's.
Which it took forever to graduate college. That's another story.
I don't know, but that's so. When did you graduate college, or what?
I graduated college in 2002.
And where did you attend?
Cal State Long Beach.
Oh, okay, sick.
Majored in computer science, which has done well.
And that's what you're currently working at?
What's that?
Is that what you're doing, like, for your day?
Yeah, so I'm head of manager of software development for a bank.
Okay, sick. I know I went onto your LinkedIn because I was telling you earlier I went on Google just to search Jeremy Sena and let's see what pops up. Of course, LA Structures pops up.
And of course your LinkedIn, some investigative work.
Well, I got to just kind of be prepared because I hate not hate it, but I just what if I'm asking a question that it's already on the Google,
Oh sure.
And maybe I can just extend it a little bit, and be able to do stuff like that. But but yeah, there's not too much stuff about you besides LA Structures and your LinkedIn. So if everybody wants to hire Jeremy Sena. No, when did you? So you said recently was LA Structures starting it. When was your first LA Structures party?
It was in, I think it was September 2 years ago. So 2016, September.
And who played, or who did you have?
The first one was Neil Landstrom and what's his name? Another dude from Texas. Neil Landstrom. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. Oh well.
How did you come up with the name for LA Structures? Well, LA of course, but just.
Well, I was gonna just call it Structures, but it was so generic that I couldn't copyright it basically. So I put LA in front of it because.
Yeah, at least
definitely an LA crew.
Yeah.
It makes it a little more distinctive. There's actually some other crew in the UK that has a club named Structure. I don't know them, but that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, and that's
with
what
a name like that.
That's what usually happens as well too. With how you said generic. Well, not just, like it's a simple name.
Simple.
So yeah. So but that's exactly what I'm saying.
It's a good theme too.
Yes. Yeah.
I like architecture,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I studied it briefly before switching majors, but
Oh, that's dope. So that's a little personal.
I've always been a fan of just good architecture, and so I always try and put something interesting as far as like structural, like building or something, some structure on the imagery associated with the shows.
And I was gonna ask you right now, about like raving in college or anything, but let's kind of take it back. In raving in high school, was there crews or like was it popular or what? Not it wouldn't be popular like right now because
Yeah.
but how was it received in your high school?
We were probably considered pretty weird. We had weird clothes on and stuff, like for Mickey Mouse gloves and stuff like that.
And people would take the Mickey Mouse gloves to
What's
school
that?
and everything. People would take the Mickey Mouse gloves to school.
Sometimes if we were like feeling ravey.
That's tight. You see, I didn't get to experience I guess raving in high school. It was more towards the ending, maybe like getting down to that type of being able to be exposed to that. So it's
Sure.
that's I'm always curious and always ask a lot of questions
Mhm.
and probably always go back out of timeline. But
Yeah. Well, it wasn't very popular when I was in high school.
and that's exactly what even talking to Caio, Caio Galindo,
Mm-hmm.
how he also mentions as well too that it wasn't a popular thing,
Yeah.
in high school as well too. So I was always want to picture how that time was.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Well, we had weird baggy pants on and with fur on them and stuff and acting all crazy. So
that would be
we were
like,
definitely like the weirdos.
that
in
would be
school.
fresh right now. People would take that as like, damn, that dude's pretty popping.
Well, everyone just pretty much dressed generically back then. My high school was really large, like 3,000 students or something. So it was
Diverse.
all different
diverse
types of people. Yeah.
And so back to LA Structures. So what would it be like, or what was your mission to start it, or like your goal behind it? Because a lot of people start a project
Yeah.
for something.
So the goal, at least in my mind, or what I wanted like to have it represent is bringing new artists that are like techno artists that are kind of fit that LA Structure sound, right? To bring those type of artists to LA, and people can enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's music that I like personally and that I play, when I DJ out. So these are artists that I'm familiar with through DJing, but I also try and follow other types of music, but there's definitely a sound that I want out of the shows, and you probably see that in the bookings. There's like a consistency.
Yeah.
It changes over time,
Yeah.
things change with techno over time. So
And that was like a question. How do you decide the artist? Like, do you consider the techno market in this air quotes?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're.
Well, I have to, right? In order for the shows to be sustainable, I can't just lose the entire budget every time I do it. There has to be some sort of balance there. So I do consider the popularity of the artist, and sometimes I've made booking decisions based on that. It's not ideal. I'd rather everything just be
But the cool
perfectly
thing is
based
that
on the music, but
you've been able to like have a balance, because still provide dope artists, or something that's not maybe like a recycled lineup or anything as well too. But for the most part, what do you? I don't know if I'm like correct, but do you think there's like recycled techno lineups in Los Angeles?
Well, I've seen the same artists play a lot. Like for instance, last weekend was Cyan again. From Octopus.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with Cyan. It's good music. It's not my favorite, but I'm kind of snobby about that stuff, and sometimes. But that artist has played 6 times in the last 2 years, right, for LA.
And
it's fine. I mean, it's good music, but I didn't go to the show because I've seen it.
Yeah, of course. And there's several poppin'. I'm gonna say popular. I said poppin', but popular also. Promoters and party crews that is one too. Have you seen? Were there like any like notable names, like prior, like in the '90s that you remember? Like, okay, these people were throwing dope stuff, because I know Joy Behavior is like a household name, that's for sure. But is there any people besides Joy Behavior?
As far as Techno
State,
it's only there hasn't been. Well, Techno State's been around, but they were doing hardcore stuff back then. They've switched to techno in the more recent years. they're good guys. I know them well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were doing different type of stuff. I actually used to, I played at the Techno State 10 year, was it, or 15 year, I can't remember. One of those big shows. It was a nice big Techno State. They used to do multi-room shows, big, 1,000 people or stuff. It was pretty awesome.
Alright, that's sick. And you're currently on LA Structures 5. But people
Correct.
shouldn't mistake it as like that's your 50th like event.
No,
because
it's
you're doing
actually-
increments of like 0.5s, correct? Like
It's actually been 12 because with that and the 0.5,
yeah.
and then doing 0.5 increments, and then there was a pop-up show. So
Oh, okay.
12 shows.
Okay. But how did you come up with the doing the increments of like not going full numbers? It was just maybe
Well, I'm a
something-
software developer, so it kind of came from that. Versions are a thing with software, so I just kind of took that idea because I just thought of it. Well, this is only 0.5 because it's not a full, version release or whatever.
Okay,
It's kind of
okay,
cheesy,
okay.
but
I know because it was interesting, what obviously people are doing that as well too. So,
Mhm.
I think I see like maybe like something 2.0 as a second version or something. But
yeah.
and with your DJing career, or your your music route, who are some of your artistic influences? Have they evolved? Have they changed over time? Or who are some like maybe
yeah.
artists that you've still been influenced since the beginning until now?
Yeah, there's some major ones. Aphex Twin's a big one. I've always been a huge fan.
You were saying you have the
because of the innovative, kind of original nature of it. I also have always been a fan of Orbital, a UK band, the two brothers.
Yeah, they're playing ADE, correct? I know some.
Yeah, they have a new album out.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I've always been they've been super influential with me. In more recent years, a lot of the modern kind of what people consider like techno classics now, things like the early Rose releases on what's the good labels. I don't know. We'll get into labels later.
do you produce music as well?
I have in the past. I stopped.
Okay.
In early days, my friend had a studio that he built up, and we used to sit around and patch with MIDI patch cables everywhere.
Oh shit.
Connected to 909 and connected to your Akai sampler.
Oh sick.
And you had this 286 PC that could record wave files, which is amazing.
Oh shit, dude. Damn. And but right now this is just your studio. You use it just for mixing right here. If I'm looking around.
Yeah, this is just for mixing. I do have gear, but it's put away.
And when you first started mixing, it was vinyl, correct?
That's correct. There was only vinyl.
Well, yeah,
that was the
course.
only
And then,
option back then.
Do you remember when the CDJ started coming out? Was it something like, oh shoot, this is dope, or was it?
Well, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I just continued with vinyl, and everyone considered vinyl the standard still for quite a few years. And then I was kind of not DJing for a while. I was working really hard at work and didn't have any free time. I wasn't partying very much. I had no contacts at the time. And that's when the CDJ kind of made its rise. So when I kind of returned to DJing after many years, I was introduced, immediately to the CDJ. My friend showed me how to use it. And
burning CDs.
Well, at this point, they had already started with the USBs.
Oh, hey, burger, little baby.
Yeah, so yeah, they were already had already released the CDJ 2000 at that time, which was I think it was 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
And I had kind of just let DJing lie for a while. I still had the equipment and everything, and I always would listen to records and stuff, but I wasn't out playing at shows or anything for quite a while.
What techniques do you have? Are they MK?
These are M5Gs.
And when did you get them?
Well, I bought one about 15 years ago, and the second one I bought about 10 years ago.
Sick. I have some MK2s, I believe, but they're untuned. One needs some tune up, so
Sure.
I think
sure.
also I think the
Well, I do techniques repairs.
oh yeah, I think I've even talked to you before. Like I think it was the first time that I met you. Yeah, we like talked about that as well too.
Yeah, if you guys need them.
Yeah, I remember
I got a
I
bunch of
met
spare
you-
parts too.
I met you at Misfit, so
That's true.
and
yeah.
I remember we were just
Misfit,
talking about that
just
as well,
also.
too.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were just talking, and then when you mentioned yourself, like, oh, I'm Jeremy. I'm like, you Jeremy Sena? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know how you knew my name. Just from the internet or what?
Yeah, that's I tell Elijah as well too. I'm like,
Big
honestly,
party
there's a lot of
around,
people that
yeah.
really just people are always looking around, just checking out, just trying to learn, see what's out there, and that was a proper introduction as well, talking to you like that. So
Yeah, you guys seem nice.
and that's what even sparked this idea of talking to you, because I think we were even outside of Misfit as well too, and we were just talking, and I'm like, dude, has anybody ever interviewed you? Like, or just talked about this type of things? I'm like, this is something that I would want to have like archived. These are cool little timestamps in life.
Definitely. Yeah. Nobody's ever interviewed me before, so it's kind of a new thing.
And you never got in like any like DJ interviews as well too, like maybe just online. How it's just like maybe not print, but
Yeah, well, I've sent in like
blogs,
little blurbs
questionnaires and stuff.
Yeah, a questionnaire for like a magazine or something. I don't know if it got published or not. They used to have a lot of free magazines. It was like a thing. You go to like the record stores and everything, and there'll be all these like rave mags.
Oh, do you have any like?
I have boxes full of them.
That's tight. Those
I
are
saved
like
everything.
those are like collectibles. And
I have
stuff.
all the flyers, I have all that stuff.
And has your track selection for DJing like changed over time or evolved? Or?
Oh, massively.
Oh yeah, you did. I'm done because you said you used to play gabber and hardcore, and
Yeah.
then you went to techno, and how has it evolved between like just techno?
Within just techno?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I first started getting techno records, there was an old record store in, I think it was Orange County, in like Fountain Valley, somewhere around there, called Higher Source.
Oh, okay.
And there's a guy that worked there, DJ Guido, right? Friend of mine at the time, we knew each other, and he was the techno buyer at that store. So when I went in there, he would show me new stuff, and it was introducing me to artists and techno sounds that I hadn't like been exposed to really.
Yeah.
Because there's if you know techno, there's almost like 100 different little subgenres within it. It's so varied.
I always describe it as that too, like for example, like you first get into a certain genre, and then you start searching and searching, and you start going like generic cliche term, but like the rabbit hole.
Exactly.
You're searching like, damn, dude, this thing does not stop in a good way.
Mhm.
But yeah.
But yeah, so he introduced me to a lot of different types of techno that I'd never heard before. I was buying up stuff like Stay Up Forever, like hard acid stuff from the UK, and I was playing that stuff out. It was it was contemporary at the time, right? Now it's just like old acid stuff, but.
And do you remember your first party that you DJ'd?
I do. I played Happy Hardcore actually, and it was at the Glass House in Pomona.
What, at the Glass House in Pomona?
Yeah.
What? You see, that's why sometimes I like to know, because okay, so you of course the Inland Empire, because you mentioned Rancho Cucamonga. Well, Pomona's LA County, but do you remember if there's any like cool parties that we're throwing in the Inland Empire besides the desert parties that still
Yeah, well, back
go on?
then, almost all the parties were in like Riverside, like San Bernardino area.
What? That's
Almost
dope.
everything except for the Glass House. That was like
Of
the one
course, yeah,
exception.
So
But
you got
nobody
from
was doing stuff in LA.
Redondo to Riverside.
Yeah, every weekend, hour.
Yeah, because that is. That's actually maybe because I when I clicked it from San Bernardino to over here was an hour and a half. But
Yeah, it can be bad, but it's the middle of the night, so you can just fly,
Okay, that
fly
is
at
true. Yeah,
90
no, that's the
whole
cool
way.
thing about driving from the Los Angeles, downtown LA to San Bernardino, or we're coming back 8 a.m. time already, so
Yeah.
the highways are pretty cleared up and makes the destination and the travel time.
Oh yeah, it's
Much better.
much easier. plus just not having to have the frustration of traffic, right?
Yeah, that's big time. When did you play any like club parties or any club stuff, like, or is it just more
Not too much. Mainly raves. I played a lot of raves. Like I think I counted it. It was like high 200s or something, like 280 or something like that.
Oh shit.
As like back in the day, under like it's doing hardcore stuff.
Oh damn.
So that was fun. But I did play some techno gigs back then. Playing hard techno stuff. And then I did a couple like kind of like shows that weren't as hard, play with like the likes of like Darcy and stuff like that. Was a big DJ back then.
Oh shit. Okay.
Girl
I was
DJ.
getting confused with the different name. But
Darcy.
okay.
Yeah, she doesn't play much anymore.
Or is there any DJs that you thought that they were like, oh man, these people are gonna be maybe playing forever and they're gonna be having exposed, but maybe they just dried out and stopped playing?
Oh, I've seen a bunch of that over the years. DJing isn't a profitable,
Of course.
profession
Yeah.
usually, unless you're Paul Van Dyke or whatever, right?
And that's the thing. There's a lot of like what you would call like maybe hidden gems of these artists that are like in Los Angeles. There
is
like
a lot of underrated talent here.
Yes.
Even you mentioned we were chatting earlier. You mentioned Santiago Salazar.
Yes.
An underrated artist. From
Big
LA.
time. He's amazing. It's crazy.
And it's good to see John Tejada coming up now with his Wahada
Oh,
project.
he is. Yeah, and he is.
But those guys have been DJing around LA for
a
years.
cool minute. Because I know even also John
Producing
Tejada's been
too.
doing stuff with
really
who?
good
Did you
stuff.
say?
Producing as well.
Oh yes, yeah. John Tejada's been collaborating with Reggie Watts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Correct. Yeah.
So stuff like that, like it's also cool to see his. Like,
I really
his,
like that album. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, super tight. Did you go to the John Tejada when they played at the Union Station?
No. I did see them play. I think it was their first gig actually, at Zebulon, in I think it's Glendale or like North LA.
I didn't even know Reggie Watts like produced as well too. He was tight. Have you ever?
Yeah, he used to be on this comedy show, Comedy Bang Bang.
Yes, yeah. I knew him because of that. Yeah, I knew him because of that. And then when I saw that he was actually producing, and then he has a Joe Rogan podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Super smart guy, super dope.
Nice guy.
So it makes sense that he's well-rounded. Like a multi-talented person.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him or anything, but I met him, shook his hand. He was nice.
Sick. And when you went to go see him play, and you recently traveled to Spain because you were gonna play, and then just
so yeah, I had a booking in Spain, but unfortunately the club closed.
Because I was gonna ask you like how did the crowd receive your track selection and everything as well too? But did you have a because I know it's a lot of times people don't go with the planned set, but did you have like a certain type of sound that you were gonna try to like go, or you were just gonna
Oh, I had my set planned. I had it ready.
Yeah.
It was similar to stuff I've been playing a lot lately, which is just kind of very modern techno, all the new stuff that comes out. But I have like a certain sound that I play with heavy bass lines that are more like dubby, but underneath like a more like well produced like heavy hitting techno like stomper,
So, and I think we saw in your social media that you went hiking. Was you traveling?
I did go hiking
in Spain. So how was that?
I went to a really cool place in Switzerland called Gimmelwald.
And was that spontaneous, or did you already like had that plan?
I've been planning to go there for years. It's like my dream hike.
That's sick.
It was beautiful. I'll show you some pictures later.
I'm down. And I doing my. You were talking about that you're a software developer for a bank or a financial company. How do you balance your day job and this event organization while DJing gigs as well too? And just
it's tough actually, but the DJ stuff and event production kind of falls in line with a lot of my social life as well, because I'm friends with the people I work with usually.
Okay.
Other than the emails though, that I'm working with foreign talent and their agencies and things like that. That takes a lot of time. So there's definitely some challenges as far as trying to balance, relaxation with work, between both my job and doing the event production.
And do your coworkers or like boss know about about the events that you throw and how heavily involved you are in the Los Angeles techno scene?
Well, they know I do it. I don't think they've looked into it too much, but
that's not really like, to be able to see like, damn, look at this, our Jeremy doing her stuff.
They do know I'm a DJ. Actually, I have a couple DJs that are my employees as well.
Oh, what? Oh, that's tight. That's sick. Do you plan on staying in Los Angeles for the time being, or because I'm sorry, before we even did the interview, for some reason I thought that you were not from California, so I was thinking, I'm like, okay, maybe you would be like maybe moving around or something. But do you plan on staying in LA for the time being?
I'm planning on staying here in Redondo.
Okay.
So I just finished remodeling this place, so I want to stay for a while and enjoy it.
This is super sweet. Like right when we got here, we were like, oh man, it feels so good.
Yeah, good weather. Weather is great here.
It felt like a beachy weather as well too, right when we stepped outside.
But yeah, to answer your question, definitely staying put for the time being. I do like to travel.
And one thing that I like about, or when I'm doing these interviews as well too, and I like to hear people's perspective on the electronic music's platform as a political or socioeconomic platform or standpoint. Do you think politics should be included or voiced in electronic music?
I mean, I wouldn't say it shouldn't be voiced. For myself, I keep it out of my shows, and it's not really part of what I'm trying to like do with my shows. So, for instance, if there's a certain artist that is militant about some social issue, I probably wouldn't book that person just because it's just not what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to have a good show where everyone has fun and can enjoy music without that, and kind of leave that stuff at the door,
And I remember when we were first going to some of your first LA structures, you had I thought it was like your home venue. Do you how do you choose your venues currently? Without
there's a variety of venues in LA, but there's not that many. So I'm familiar with most of them. And I've used different venues in the past.
Do you have like maybe like top 5 that you're like, okay, these are my go-to? And not even to say them, but just you have your top 5, to choose from.
Really, it's there's one venue that I use quite a bit, and that's my top one. And other than that, it's kind of a per show kind of one-off situation, which is fine. If I don't normally need a giant warehouse or something like that unless I'm bringing a larger act out, for instance, right?
And this episode is basically gonna air after your Structures 5 with Alfredo Mazzilli.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any surprises or any like future plans for LA Structures? Any events that you're willing to share, maybe for next year? Because this is going to be the December episode.
Okay, yeah. So at that point, I'll probably have done another show as well.
Okay.
I'm working on a couple different ideas at the moment for shows that are follow on from the one next week. I don't want to say the artist names because nobody's signed yet. But I would love in the future, the ones that I'm not actually actively discussing, business terms with their agencies or anything, but I would love to bring out artists like Function, or Rose with Rose with double R Rose.
I believe she's playing. She is playing at ADE for Intercell.
Oh, okay,
Intercell
awesome.
Party. I think back to back with Lucy.
Oh, cool. So that'll be good.
Yeah.
And then long term, I'd like to bring larger artists like Jeff Mills and.
Oh, did you did you go to the Jeff Mills Enjoy Behavior party when they brought Jeff Mills to LA?
I did.
How was that?
I've seen him. I think 2 times in LA.
The Wizard.
He's great.
He was going live with the 909.
Yeah, he went crazy with his 909.
Dude, when I see those videos,
he's really fast hands.
Yeah, that's he has that on lock. He has that super on lock.
Yeah, it's an entertaining show too. It was huge. It was I think where Academy is now.
What? Wait, but Academy's was Couture? No.
Yeah, it was Couture. Before that, it was called something else. But yeah.
So it was there. Okay. Yeah. Then. So you've also seen like the whole clubs. You've seen the venue, the location, but the different names, going around, changing around as well too.
I sure have. I've seen a lot of clubs come and go. which, you know, is good and bad. You want to see, you know, improvement, you know, with music venues and things like that. If you're a music aficionado, to be able to go see shows in a better venue, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to see, you know, upgrades and things over the years as new owners come in. But sometimes they're your friends that, you know, their club went out of business, which totally sucks.
Yeah. And did you see, because, you know, Exchange LA and Academy LA are some, like, popular ones in downtown LA, like, you know, like, I guess, like, licensed. Oh, no, Law 613 is another licensed venue as well, too. Did you know, were you were here, like, prior when they started as well, too, right?
Yeah, definitely. There was nothing like that before. That's kind of a newer development over the past few years.
You see, that's crazy. That's so, because, you know, to you, that's like, you know, that's a new thing as well too. You know, when we started, it was already like a thing type thing. But, you know, of course, you know, we went, and then, you know, now I haven't gone to Exchange in
2 years.
Yeah, maybe, like, you know, 2+ years. You know, it's just been, you know, been sticking around the warehouse events. You know, feels more homey.
Yeah, the warehouse events are fun.
Yeah, big time. They're fun. I always come a little workout, a little mini workout / relaxation. That night, but do you have any upcoming gigs or?
Yeah, I'm playing this. Well, by the time this airs, it'll be over. But I'm playing Monday night, which is tomorrow.
Oh yes, that's okay for
context. At Pattern Bar.
Okay.
In downtown LA. So
are you excited for that?
Oscar Gerard.
Yes, Oscar Gerard. Okay.
Set up the show, so it's gonna be cool. Altered Being, my friend, is gonna play as well.
And you're close friends with Motion, and because Carlos is part of Motion, correct?
Yeah, my friend Carlos. He's worked closely with me on a lot of the LA Structure shows as well.
And I remember seeing a picture of you and Carlos at Detroit.
Oh yeah.
For Movement. When did you first attend Movement?
I don't know. I think it was like 7 years ago.
Oh, and have you been going every year, or has it just been?
No, I usually skip a year, do every other year.
Check it out and see how it is. And how have you seen it evolve? You know, since, you know, it's also you know, grown popular as well too.
The underground stage keeps changing. You know, they've rotated it to a different direction and put in like new sound stuff and all kinds of techniques to get it to sound better down there. I mean, it's a pretty wild little area they have for the underground stage.
When we were like, yo, this is like crazy. It was dope.
Yeah, it's a cool stage.
I know I was sweating balls though. I was sweating balls. Like, it was crazy.
It gets warm down there, especially when it's packed.
Yeah,
I saw Jeff Mills down there as well.
For Movement?
Yeah, at Movement. It was like 5 years ago or something.
And did you see it when Oslo hosted the underground stage?
I did not. No, I don't think I was there that year.
I hosted it one time, so you know how
That's
you said
cool.
it was.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were meaning like that the underground scene changes and that type of.
Well, they were physically changing it, but I've seen the lineups change as well. But sometimes they'll have like a host, like
yes, of course,
like Dirty Bird or something like that. So you'll see, you know, different types of acts.
Yeah.
You know, down there, it's not always the same kind of warehouse techno.
And have you gone to any other festivals besides Detroit or outside of California?
Yeah, actually, just got back from Berlin. I went to a Tonal Festival.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
The 5-day festival out there. It's in this like giant factory that's like connected to Trezor.
Oh, okay.
And they don't normally have it opened up, but it's huge in there. It's really cool.
And you see, that's the thing about
giant concrete columns and everything.
That's the thing about, you know, like, you know, the rave culture, these venues, you know, these locations that people use. For example, the one that one of the venues at ADE, one of the parties, you know, for example, Electric Deluxe and Audio Obscura, if I'm not mistaken, with you know, it's at what used to be a prison.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, a little prison rave kind of going on. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah.
It's just cool how, you know, people, you know, use these, you know, past locations that they were used for a specific, you know, type of environment. You know, talking to my coworkers, like, dude, the venue was an ex-prison, you know, which is pretty dope. You know, maybe
Europe likes to do that stuff.
Which is you know, like, and also too, like, it kind of maybe was influenced of the abandoned buildings in Detroit.
Oh yes,
so
true.
Stuff like that. Like, when we went to Detroit, you know, abandoned buildings everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of them I think aren't safe for shows.
Like,
if you were to vibrate the heck out of it, it might collapse. But I'm sure there's ones that are good that they can use. There's been talk of people buying up, you know, some of these old factories and stuff and converting them into like permanent clubs, which would be
that's
really
ideal.
Great.
Yes, that's exactly.
Tresor's going to Detroit too.
Oh wait, yeah, you did. The owner of Chisel, right? Or he's also opening up a club in Detroit.
I've heard rumors to that effect.
Yeah,
I don't know the guy, so I didn't ask him or anything.
And I always trip out about like that
Excuse me.
that venue. No, no worries. That venue in San Bernardino, the Hudson.
Yeah.
Which is like, to me, it's proper, but I guess I've heard that nobody can throw events there.
Which
I'm not
one
sure
is
if you
that?
heard it. The Hudson in San Bernardino. It's where that all ages club used to be at.
I don't think I'm familiar with it.
Did you remember the little like spark of all ages club in the electronic music scene?
No, I don't think I encountered much of that.
Well, I wouldn't expect it too much. Like,
I think it was a younger crowd that was out in IE, right?
yes, that's it.
So
Yeah,
I wasn't exposed too much to it. I mean, I knew it existed. I have friends that would play at shows like out there all the time. But yeah, and myself, I just wasn't out there much because I was probably in downtown LA.
Yeah,
somewhere else. Show.
No, yeah, I always I have a lot of friends that were going to those type of parties in the IE. So I always trip out about that every time I pass by that venue because it's right next to the freeway. So it's
Oh yeah.
I think it's a proper venue as well too, but somebody said it's untouchable. Nobody can touch it. So I was like, damn.
I played at a weird Elks Lodge one time there.
In San Bernardino?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was only like a few years ago.
Yeah, no, I think I've I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so hopefully. But that's the thing. I remember I even asked Marco as well too. I'm like, what's your perspective? Do you think there should be parties in the Inland Empire since Los Angeles is kind of thriving in a sense and has its own parties that are popping in there,
Yeah.
different options as well too. Do you
Excuse me.
think the Inland Empire should, or people should be throwing parties in the IE?
Yeah, go for it. Throw a party wherever you want. I mean, just watch out.
Yeah, of course, yeah, another thing. But do you think people would go or?
Well, it's
Marco said
tough,
if you
right?
host
So
if you
if
have
you're
a-
gonna throw something out in IE, you probably want to get the local rave crowd there, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's a big rave community there. There's a lot of shows, so I figure somebody's got to be going to them. From a promotion perspective, you probably want to nab that crowd rather than try and get people to drive from LA out there.
Makes sense. That did cross my head as well too. Trying to lock in the. Or even people like our artists, even outside of techno. When just talking about I guess making air quotes, being successful and being able to have this momentum in your music career, is before you can get to the LA crowd, you gotta lock in, and have the IE, enjoy your music and back you up, since you're from the IE.
If you're from there, yeah.
And then from there, you're gonna be able to have that backup, and then it's easy to get that exposure, and then lock in Los Angeles.
That's a strategy. I mean, you got to be careful though because that crowd from IE, like vice versa, won't drive to LA. It's a long drive.
I know,
You're
and that's
gonna lose,
exactly
like,
every time.
90%
I
of your
remember every
crowd.
time when people say, "Oh, where are you from?" Or like San Bernardino, Pomona, they're like, "Damn." But I'm like, "Yeah, kind of," but I guess
It's a bit of a trek.
I was like, "Yeah, but I guess it's worth it in our sense. It's just the people we meet and everything as well too. It's just all part of the experience."
Okay.
So we were talking, and I wanted to ask you, more in depth some of these rave stories, these locations that were pretty. Do they still exist, or what are some of that still exist, or is there still?
Yeah, there's a few that still exist. There's one that's prominent in LA, Club Vertigo.
Okay.
It's right at the intersection of the 110 and the 10. It's got some silly flags at the top now, but it used to be called La Casa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
there was a bunch of shows there. The places they would have a huge main room, and there'd be upstairs rooms and stuff. It was pretty cool.
And you were talking about a rave riot.
Yes.
Tell us
the famous rave riot
about that.
Yeah. So I was at the rave riot. There was a crew called CPU 101. They would do New Year's shows called Circa, right? And this year was Circa 97. The year before was at the same location, the Grand Olympic Auditorium, which is now a giant Korean church, right off the 10 freeway.
Oh shit.
But yeah, they used to have a New Year's rave there every year at the time. It's pretty good lineup, with big electronic acts, headlining the main room and all that. But the cops, in their infinite wisdom, busted the party at about 11:30, 11:45, something like that. And tens of thousands of raver kids poured out onto the street, and it caused a bunch of chaos, and it was a disaster. The cops started shooting kids with rubber bullets, and were, in riot gear and stuff, and of course, all the ravers were screaming, running around, and there's a giant parking structure next to the venue, and the cops had parked their police cars along it, and people were throwing fire extinguishers off the parking structure onto the police cars and stuff like that. It was just chaos.
And you mentioned that who was there? Drum cell?
I think I've heard Drum Cell tell the story on another podcast actually.
Oh shit! Okay.
I know he was there. But yeah, it was wild. I ran off with my friends into the parking structure, and my car was there, and so I had my brother with me, and we went all the way up, climbed all the way up the parking structure. It was chaos in there, and we found my car, and we got in this line of cars to get out, and these two raver kids come running up to my car, and they're all bloody, and they're like, "Oh, hey, can we get in your car? The police just beat us up." And their faces were all bloody and stuff, and I let them in my car, and these rape kids, I had like a Happy Hardcore tape playing on the cassette deck, and they didn't care about getting beat up by the police or anything. They're like, "Oh my god, who is this?" They wanted to know who the mixtape was.
Dude, that's
this Paulina Taylor.
Damn, dude. Well, and so you were with your brother?
Yeah, my little brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
How was that? His he's already had been raving at this time, maybe, or gone to.
He would go with me sometimes for big shows like that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like a year younger than me, so we hung out a lot.
And did you meet Drum Cell or these people? Or
I didn't know him
notable?
back then. They were different crews. I just didn't know them.
Okay.
I met him in later years.
Were there any event goers that that you just knew them as like other local ravers, in a sense? And
yeah, definitely. There was a bunch of local rave scene around here. Where there's quite a few ravers from this area. So
do you still talk to some of them still currently?
Yeah, a lot of them actually. Some of them I still see out every now and then. Some of them are off, with families and stuff like that, or live in different cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too many of those friends are actively going out. I'm probably the exception to the rule there at my age.
One of the last one standings.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing though, to be able to see this type of culture grow. One of the since the beginning, and then maybe the middle ground. It's evolution. Now what it is right now, but there's way more time for it to evolve into something else. Or not something else specifically, but to a different form of its original.
True. Yeah. Well, electronic music by its nature is progressive, right?
Yeah,
so it'll change over time.
Yeah.
There's always some new sound coming down the pipe. Producers doing new things. It's infinite what you can do with it. So, who knows what the future holds as far as sound? I'm sure there's all kinds of great techno, just waiting.
Do you think, or what do you think? The state of techno will be maybe in the upcoming years.
Well, I hope it maintains its momentum in Los Angeles. We've had a lot of years of big techno parties all the time. We're kind of spoiled here. A really healthy techno scene, so I hope that continues. I'd like to be able to bring artists out here and do shows, and that requires people, attending the shows, or else it becomes untenable after some heavy financial losses and stuff like that. So hopefully it'll maintain its momentum. There's always new sounds coming down the pipe, so techno by its nature stays fresh, which is a good thing.
But you said you hope to contribute in a sense, and I think that's what you're doing with LA Structures.
I appreciate that.
For the most part. We Elijah and I have attended your events, and they're dope. It's a different, also refreshing, than how you said some of the same artists that we see here and there. But it's dope. I remember I was talking to Marco. He sent me some of his favorite maybe his not favorite artists, but artists that he likes a lot, and then to see a lot of them are some of the people that you've already booked as well too. So I'm like, oh, you see, this kind of solidifies that that Jeremy is bringing something different and proper to LA.
for us.
Well, I appreciate the comments. That's a really nice thing to say.
And I hate being biased in a sense, but it's the reason why I'm doing these podcasts as well too. You know, I'm not being like selective. Like if I want to interview just because you're, you know, like you're cool or anything, but it's I think you have some, you know, something that people need to hear and check out too. So.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got you know, a lot of show ideas in my head for the future, and I'd love to put them together. So, you know, be on the lookout. I'm not stopping unless I'm forced to. So.
No, yeah, that's the cool thing. Like a lot of times I think about like, dude, I'm trying to be old and be able to do this forever, you know. And this is the cool thing, to be able to see this grow, and hopefully my kids, if I have kids, you know, get into it. Or I'm not trying to force nobody, but this is something I love, you know, and enjoy as well too. So.
Excellent.
Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would at least, or maybe something that at least people want to?
Let me try and think of some rave stories.
I know this is the cool thing, you know. People are trying to know, you know, or listen.
Oh, there was a crazy rave at what is now the like the Lion King Theater across from the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, like right on Hollywood Boulevard, where the Chinese Theater is. Directly across the street is the Disney Theater, where they do like Lion King and stuff like that. Yeah. When that place was all run down before Disney bought it and renovated it, they did a Nocturnal Wonderland there. It had like 5 rooms or something like that, but it was like all multi-floor. It took over the whole place.
So
it was pretty wild.
So Hollywood was not even like what it is right now. Like, you know,
they probably weren't supposed to be doing it there, but
yeah. No, makes sense. And that's you know, that's part of, you know, like the culture of, you know, the people, you know, using these spaces that, you know, might not be licensed to be able to use and whatnot. But
exactly. Well, they did one also at Santa's Village, which was
Santa's Village.
Santa's Village. It was a kind of a small theme park up in the
and
Angeles
Forest.
Like,
it sounds like Fiesta Village in San Bernardino.
Yeah, it's like a small theme park with like a roller coaster, and like, you know, it's good for kids and stuff, but it was closing down, and so somebody in their infinite wisdom booked it. I think it was Juju Beats or something like that. And so yeah, they had a big rave at Santa's Village one time, and giant mushrooms.
And did you go
walkways and stuff?
And so it kind of reminds me of when people would throw like the 420 festival over here in close to the Riverside area, that Pharaoh's Lost Kingdom.
Oh yeah.
So did you ever go to any events over there as well too?
I don't know about that particular one, but those types of places, they would try and use them all the time because it was great. Like, you know.
I know when I've heard, you know, that, you know,
it's a great place to have a rave, but it's just they would just bust them all the time.
Oh, damn, man. Okay, so that rave riot, is there more any of those, like, you know, being like rated and typical, like maybe running out, or did you ever get in trouble?
No, I never got in trouble, luckily. I was a pretty good kid, but yeah, luckily never got in trouble. You know, we were smoking weed when I was in high school. Yeah. We were smoking weed and stuff, and it was illegal back then, not even medical.
I mean, I think that's a little more risky, though, in a sense, you know.
Yeah, if you got caught with it, you were in trouble. But yeah, things have changed quite a bit in that sense. But let's see. Yeah, no other like violent incidents or like huge trouble or anything like that, other than getting caught by your parents sneaking in at 6 a.m. or something.
And even just kind of even backing away from like even the violence, because the whole raving culture is, you know, built on acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any, you know, experiences like that made you like realize, like, you know, these people or this community is an actual, like, you know,
well, yeah,
supportive?
You know, when I was just a dorky high school kid, I didn't have a lot of, you know, friends that were into the music I liked or anything like that, and going out to those raves in the early days, you know, everyone was very accepting. You know, there was some rough elements, stuff like that, but I wasn't, you know, I wasn't bothered. I wasn't mugged, nothing like that. Had my car broken into a couple times in like San Bernardino and stuff, but nothing major. But yeah, it was a very accepting community. Made a lot of good friends over the years.
And that's what I even like explain to people outside of this, you know, genre or community. For example, coworkers, you know, that this was built on this. You know, even the acronym of PLUR, you know, the peace, love, unity, respect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think has that specific ideology, I would say air quotes, do you think that's still thriving, or do you think it's still
I think
active?
in some areas it is. I wouldn't say that PLUR is a big thing other than lip service at some of the festivals I've been to, just because drug use is just out of hand and all that stuff. And people are there, for different reasons, right, than plur.
Of course.
Right? But, that's not everybody. There's a lot of people that do practice that kind of, openness and kind of acceptance and respect of others in a kind of dance environment, which is a nice thing. It's fun.
I was gonna ask you a question, but I completely forgot about it. Damn, that was crazy. Yeah, actually, that's crazy. I completely forgot about it.
But, do you have any more questions?
No, I think that's just basically again a thank you, for giving this opportunity to be able to talk to you and just just laugh and be able to again still fantasize how this whole genre and community used to be, and just hope to continue seeing each other. Hope to see LA Structures keep growing and keep thriving, and being able to be something bigger than what it is right now as well too. So thank you again, and I'm not sure if you want to share something else again to the maybe some shout outs or anything to people.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure, and hope good luck with the podcast in the future. I think it's a pretty cool idea.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's
nothing else at the moment, but I was glad to be on.
All right, thank you, and shout out to Burger. But thank you again. So we'll probably do another episode in the future as well too. So this is kept me more hungry for more questions.
Excellent.
But we'll keep it going for another one. So so thank you again.
All right.
This is Jeremy Sena.
Thanks everyone. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.